everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach, and see if you can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. Yes, the playoffs are around the corner, but the draft is also around the corner, Austin. And we were talking about Acuff and how I'm very interested in him. And it comes to mind with, we were talking about number one overall pick. In other years, he would be could be a number one overall pick. But I don't know. The Mavs, I think, are in the lottery, and they have control of their pick this year. Of course, to me, we can talk about the different ways they can go, but they still are looking for the GM. To me, they have unrealistic expectations because there's a rumor they wanted Sam Presti or Brad Stevens, and it's like, Dumont, they are not coming. They are not leaving Sam Presti definitely is not leaving his present situation because that's an amazing situation. But then Kidd could be rumored to be the GM. There's a lot floating on the Mavs right now, and Cooper Flagg is doing great this year, dropping 50 as we were talking about, setting records. There has to be a plan in place. To me, it feels like they're in limbo.
Yeah, I mean, but they have a lot of young guys that I think can contribute. I know Lively has still dealt with injuries, but I think partially that may be because they're trying to tank this year a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if they get a good guy this year in the draft, a A1 guy, then I definitely think they're primed for a good tenure here for the next couple of years. I think that they are going to be expected with Flagg to win a title at some point in Flagg's career, and that starts as early as possible. And I think they've learned a lot from what happened with Luka, but also that's a wait to be seen.
I think it's a wait to be seen as well because I think the only thing with them learning exactly from Luka is making sure Flagg never leaves. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest Luka.
Sure, but they also had experience with going to the finals and how that necessarily goes. Now, obviously, some of those guys that were on that team or were in the management are not still there. But I do think that it still, I think, resonates with a lot of these guys of how the team was built when they got there.
Yeah, if you want to talk about building a team.
And there's a chance with an Acuff and Flagg, if those are the two options of building a younger version of Luka and Kyrie, where obviously you can't replace either of those guys perfectly, but you had the same system.
Yeah, and they got there because of their defense, and then you had an offensive creator in Luka. To me, Flagg gives you a great
Flagg is a great defender. Yeah, but
he's great offensively as well. But if you do well this draft, you get in a good position for the draft, to me, you need someone with a vision of what they want, who they want to pair Cooper Flagg with. Because that, to me, is the biggest benefit of this high draft pick, and that's why they're tanking.
Yeah.
You can get the Kyrie and Luka, but also, if you're trying to win fans back, you get two homegrown talents.
Yeah. And when do you think they'll actually – well, right now, who is the decision maker, one? And two, when do those decisions about, who's going to be the next GM get made?
So right now, they're doing an interim GM between Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi. And to me, I feel like it has to be set before the draft. I think you can keep scouts and everything else, but to me, you need a decision maker because I think you can trust all the Mavericks guys for getting information about players. And I don't think you're just going to bring a guy off the street. So he'll probably be in a front office knowing about the draft. So to me, it has to be settled by then. And you talk about them learning lessons from Luka. Is it better for them to have someone in-house? Like, what if they just promote Michael Finley or bring in someone from the outside?
I think I would bring somebody from the outside because the toxicity of the fan base, they'll have someone to resonate with that wasn't there during the troublesome era of the team.
I agree. And another point is it's a co-GM between Matt Riccardi and Michael Finley. If you choose one of them, there has to be some friction between the other because you essentially became his boss when you both were working on the same thing. And I do think there is benefit of an outside voice for a GM.
Yeah, I agree. Especially one that has had some experience. I would not hire somebody that is new to the job.
Interesting. Why?
Because this is such an important decision. I don't think it's time for. Look, whenever you become something for the first time, you usually struggle with it initially. That's not to say you're going to be bad or worse off than the previous person, but out of the gate, you may have some troubling decisions. And these decisions out of the gate for the Mavs are extremely, extremely important. And I think the only way to benefit from those to the max extent is to have someone who has experience in drafts before making decisions.
That's a really good point because you do
especially because this draft
first year.
Yeah, this draft is not easy to choose from, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of great guys, and I definitely think A-Cup's an elite talent, like you mentioned. But there's a lot of choices to be made, and this draft is not one pick for the Mavs. I mean, you can make trades to trade back into the first, and you also have your second rounders, which may be really good. And I do think that this decision takes experience to make.
To your point, Nico Harrison was a new guy, and of course, you made the big Luka mistake. But before that, there were a lot of good trades. However, if you go before that, I'm trying to remember one of his first trades. That might be the Porzingis trade to the Wizards, where the Mavs got Spencer Dinwiddie. That was okay. Trying to think, there was another.
Didn't he also trade? Didn't he draft Derek? Oh no. Didn't he trade Case and Wallace? Right? Or was that for Lively?
Well, okay, so the Case and Wallace was a trade to get Derek Lively.
Yeah.
So, it could be. That was his first major draft. Yeah, that was. So you could argue about that. Because Case and Wallace and Derek Lively, you talk about choosing between good players. At that moment, I think they were similar. Now you could argue Case and Wallace being better because of all the injuries Lively has experienced. But that's also a different. Do you want to pair someone with a guard or go center? And I think that's something you'll have questions with now.
True. I mean, I definitely think that's true.
So it's a really good point about having someone that's already experienced and maybe has a vision. So a guy that maybe struggled at first, but now kind of has some ideas.
But they also have something to keep the confidence in the fans, right? Like, hey, this guy has done something similar to this before, so we can trust him to do something similar to it next time or this time.
Yep. So if you bring someone from the outside, you brought it up, but I think you have to get rid of Kidd.
I think you let the GM decide.
Ooh, okay.
I think I'm fine either way, but I'll let the GM decide.
That's a good point. So, yeah. Then, okay, let's say the GM decides to get rid of Kidd. Would you want an experienced coach or a new coach?
I would say new coach, and the reason I say new coach is because of all your players being young, and I think that the coach can grow with the players, and in a couple of years, all they know is all they know is each other basically, and I could see that creating a lot of camaraderie. I think young coaches with young players really does benefit in a lot of cases in the NBA. I think in college, I don't think of it as much benefiting. I think sometimes older players and younger coaches in college, but in the NBA, I think that young coaches, especially young coaches that have had experience as an assistant on a winning team or have seen winning culture before, I do think that I would go young coach.
And I like the idea of someone new trying their own thing because when you're bad, to me, that's the time to try something new and take a risk because you're going to
Yeah,
be bad no matter what.
but that's what I say for like coaches. You can have a little bit of time to be bad, but for this is maybe the best draft class of all time. You can't afford to make an early mistake as a GM.
Yeah, you make a good point with the GM because you have to get the right players.
Yeah, there is no time to wait and see or make makes different problems may arise or anything. Like you just can't have any problems in this draft class making decisions or not knowing who's going to make the decision. You have to make a decision on who the GM is going to be. But then the GM has to be confident in their takes and be confident in the vision of the team. And I think that would take a more experienced guy out of the gate to come up with because the young guy, while he may be better in the future, you can worry about that later. You need to hit on this on this draft pick in June.
Yes, because all the other picks you don't have control of. That's all a bunch of different trades. You will have picks, but it won't be your pick like it will this year. So it's a fun situation to look at and something that we'll look back on. They aced it or they didn't. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.